Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's episode, I'm going to show you our curriculum for 3rd and 1st grade for the year 2021 to 2022. So let's get into it. We have been homeschooling now for 3 years. We're going into our 3rd year. So we have a 1st grader and a 3rd grader. Let's dive into our 1st grade curriculum first. This is our daughter Reagan. She is 6 years old. I will go through their language arts and math separately because they do those on separate levels. And then what we do is we do history and science together, and Bible together. So I'll set those last, and I'll explain how we do things. I think I'm gonna do a separate video about our schedule as far as how I mix everything in, because I'm gonna show you a lot of curriculum. We will fit all of this in, plus some, because I'll explain when I get into the specific subjects that I'm specifically referring to science and history. I do like to keep language arts and math a tight ship as far as that goes, because that's what's most important, I feel like, in younger grade levels. History and science for younger grade levels, I feel like can be done hands-on. When it's busy days or sick days, we don't even do history and science. So I kind of plan it as I go. But we'll get into that when I do science and history. So for language arts for Reagan for 1st grade, we do, the company is Winter Promise. She is actually using Liam's hand-me-down curriculum. I did that for him for his 1st grade year. I bought their language arts ebook. And so basically I can just print it out as I need it, which is really convenient. It's cheaper upfront, but it does require a little bit of ink. So the one we chose is Pine Nut Park Workbook A for syllables and sentences. You can find them at winterpromise.com, and I'll link every curriculum that I use, every subject, every material that I use this year, I'll link down in the description box. But basically Winter Promise is really good for novice homeschoolers. I used them for Liam's preschool, I used them for Reagan's kindergarten, and I used them for Liam's 1st and 2nd grade language arts. They do history and science also. We did do their history last year, but my kids really weren't into it. It was difficult for them to pay attention. Winter Promise is kind of like a whole program in itself. They provide you with vocabulary, phonics, spelling, sentence structure, and they also provide you with a parent guide. So they've set everything up for you. All you have to do is follow their guide, and it's basically just get out there, I've set everything up for you kind of thing. And so I do recommend them if you're just starting out homeschooling. And this is the parent guide. Each program they have for language arts comes with their own parent guide, and then each language arts program they have, it is actually 18 weeks. So basically half the year that you'd be doing that. So the syllables and sentences guide is very heavy on phonics and sentence structure, vocabulary. You do have to pay extra for their phonics cards because they do use that. You can use your own, you can find your own phonics cards. They put in their own phonics cards for their syllabus. Okay, and so these are their phonics cards that you do have to buy separate with you if you get the ebook. And it's basically, you follow this character Mac, and it is his story throughout 1st grade and 2nd grade that you would follow his story. And it's basically like, it helps you with phonics, sounding out. It comes with pictures if you want, or without pictures if you want. So it's phonic cards and character cards. Also, they provide readers. These will come in the mail, and the phonics cards will come in the mail. They are short stories. For instance, this is week 1. Mac and a Mess, and The Gold Nut. Really, really easy for young readers. So that's all for Reagan's language arts. And now I'm going to move on to Liam's language arts. Now this is the first year where I didn't get my school in the bag, as I say. I had to find everything myself with this one, and it was a bit overwhelming for me. This is like I said, I'm going into my 3rd year homeschooling, and I felt like it felt a little overwhelming to me. However, I did find, following a few homeschool mentors that I know, I did find a few I feel like cover all the bases for 3rd grade language arts. So I'm using Daily Grams for 3rd grade. I do believe it comes in other grades. 180 daily reviews, capitalization, punctuation, grammar, and other concepts, daily sentence combining. And this is the teacher edition, but it's got basically each day you do 1 page. And then we've got, since he's going into 3rd grade, I do remember when I went in 3rd grade, I learned cursive writing. So I did get this workbook, cursive handwriting workbook for kids, basically teaching you alphabet, words, and sentences. There's 100 pages. We will be starting cursive writing this year. Also, for vocabulary, we are using Worldly Wise 3000 for grade 3. It says book 3, but it's for grade 3. And it's simply just vocabulary. Another thing we're using is the Big Book of Reading Comprehension Activities. There are 100+ activities. It says after school and summer reading plan for grade 3, but I am actually using that for regular class. And it's really good. It's each page, it basically gives you a small little story with an assignment or a game that can be done. It helps the kids to remember what they read. And then another thing is just more defined grammar. For grade 3, they talk about prepositions, about verbs, nouns, single and plural, adjectives, adverbs, sentence types, pronouns, capitalization, punctuation. I will also be doing spelling with Liam, but I did not get a workbook for that. I'm gonna go on to Pinterest and look for 3rd grade level spelling words for him this year, but he will be doing spelling. And then also what I have him do for reading is I allow him to choose his own book. It has to be a chapter book, but each day after school, he goes into his room and reads a chapter of that book, whichever book he wants, because I don't want to force a book on him where he thinks it's incredibly boring. So he does choose his own book, and then when he's done reading that chapter, he comes out and I ask him what the chapter was about, and that's when he describes, and I guess it's just another kind of reading comprehension for him, but he verbally tells me what he learned in that story, who the characters were. Since it's the beginning of the school year, he just tells me kind of like a summary of the chapter. But as we get into the school year, we'll talk about protagonist, antagonist, things like that. Now I'm going to get into math. I'm kind of going to give you a background into what we've been doing for math. I had them do Reagan in preschool. I had her do math, and then at that time Liam was in 1st grade. So with that math for 1st grade Liam and preschool Reagan 2 years ago, we did master books, and it was incredibly easy for both of them. They just kind of flew right by it. And I think Liam was actually doing almost a week's worth of math in one day because it was just so easy for him. And then last year for kindergarten and 2nd grade, they did Abeka, because I figured, well, they're going so fast through this one, maybe they're both advanced in math. And so, thinking, okay, which one is a good math for more advanced kids, I guess. It's like, okay, well, how about Abeka? So we did Abeka last year, and there were a lot of tears. Not so much Reagan, because it's kindergarten math, and I think she does better with math. But Liam, he's more language arts guy. So math, there were a lot of tears with Abeka math. And so I thought, okay, let's try something completely different. We'll see how it goes this year, because now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think he's really more of a workbook math. He's a very visual person. And so we're gonna try this new math, but it is still a workbook math. I might have to get really creative next year, maybe this year, if he has a difficult time with it too. I'm going to pray and put it out there that he has a good job with this one. He's getting into later grades, so it's gonna be a little bit more advanced, and it's gonna be harder every year, but hopefully he does a good job with it. Okay, so this year's math for both of them, I'm using the company Horizons, and that's 3rd grade and 1st grade. It says book 1 for each of these, so we'll definitely need to get another book later in the year. But as far as our budget is concerned, I couldn't get all of them at the same time. So it goes to lesson 80, and I believe there's 180 days in a school year. So that gives 100 more days of no math. So if it works out for him that he likes it, we will get another math book for Horizons, maybe like book 2. If he doesn't like it and he doesn't do well with worksheets, we might get creative at that point. I do believe that I will do a quarterly update of how we're doing school, just to give you guys a kind of how are we doing? Do we like these curriculums that we've chosen for the subjects? This is what we're trying this time right now for the fall. And probably in, I'd say 3 months, maybe just before Thanksgiving, I'll do another update on what we've done right and what we've done wrong, what's happening, maybe updates on, what I've chosen from Pinterest as far as extra things that I'm adding to our curriculum. But now I'm gonna go ahead and get into science. I don't really make science a big deal at this point. We have decided to use Usborne's 100 Science Experiments this year as just kind of like a filler for just, science is all about experiments. So we're gonna do some experiments. So if you saw my video with the Target haul that I did, we did buy these full steam ahead science experiment worksheets. So you've got science experiment, you've got what is the experiment, what do you think will happen, what is the result, science worksheet, what is the question, what is my hypothesis, materials and supplies do I need, how will I test my hypothesis, what do I observe, and what did I learn. And we did buy those from the Target dollar section, so I will be using that for the experiments. Also, I do let the kids tell me what they're interested in, and then I base science and history on that. The kids did tell me that they wanted to learn about dinosaurs for science, and so I am going to use a lot of textbooks about learning about dinosaurs, and then also I'm going to go on Pinterest for some websites that do provide dinosaur activities and all that. So I do kind of go almost week to week on that. And in the video coming up where I talk about our schedule, I'll explain what I do as far as fitting in science and history. As far as history goes, we are going to learn about the United States history, starting with Pilgrims all the way until probably whatever fits this year, but probably starting with Pilgrims. And I did get History for Kids, Road to Independence. It does start with the Pilgrims, but I think that we'll just see how it goes as far as what they can absorb and what we have time for. I also got, this is also from Usborne Books and More, where it's History Uncovered the United States. So we will probably fit in a little bit of geography into our history also, primarily because, learning about the beginning of America, they're going to talk a lot about the location where they started, the Mayflower coming to Massachusetts. So we'll learn about where Massachusetts is, basically the 13 colonies probably this year. And then we'll see how it goes as far as what they can absorb and what they're interested in. If they really like it, then we'll keep going with it. But like I said, with first and third grade, it's more hands-on. So I'll go on Pinterest and look for websites that provide US history activities and hands-on learning. And then the last thing that I will talk about, I think I'll get more into morning basket type things. Technically, we do a morning basket type thing. We do not physically have a basket. I did that maybe my first year homeschooling. We did physically have a basket. We kept everything in it, but it's kind of evolved into splitting it up throughout the school day, what we fit in. And that does involve Bible. Okay, so with Bible class, this year we're doing a devotional called How Great is Our God. It kind of fits in with science, 100 indescribable devotions about God and science. We started this last year because in science we learned about space, and it fit so well into it. It gives comparisons between science and God, basically. Like, for instance, this page, it talks about creationism into science. And that's something that I do like. So we do a devotional each day. And then this year, we're going to start doing scripture memory verse memorization. And with this book, it's really only for one kid, but they give 77 memory verses, which will probably last us 2 years. That we'll be working on each one of them. And it shows read it, write it, and then color it. And so I will take these scriptures and I'm going to make my own printables. So with this, I'm going to use the memory verses provided, but I have created a printable for my kids to be able to write it out on a bigger sheet. I'll provide that link in the description below also. But basically, that involves their handwriting too. So it's kind of mixing two different subjects into one act. And so they'll get their handwriting and they'll learn scripture memorization. And then I'll leave the link in the description for this book specifically. And then also we do read alouds. So in the morning I read 3 chapters from my Bible. Typically it is the proverb of the day. Let's say, for instance, it's the first of the month, I read Proverbs 1. Every month we go back through. If the month ends on the 30th, rather than having a 31st, I read Proverbs 31 with Proverbs 30. And then I always read Psalm 91 in the morning. And then typically I read a gospel. We go through the gospel starting from Matthew and ending with Acts. And then we refresh again, starting back with Matthew. And I read a chapter a day of that. I had been doing that for 3 years. But then this year, my kids said they wanted to read through Genesis and Exodus. So we are going through Genesis right now, and we're reading a chapter a day in Genesis. So yeah, I will also be doing a read along with juvenile novels. So we're going through Charlotte's Web right now, and then we'll read Farmer Boy. I don't have Charlotte's Web with me, but we've got Farmer Boy, which we've read 2 years ago, which they love it, so we came back to it. And then we've got Huckleberry Finn that we're going to be reading also. But I love to read a chapter to them at lunchtime. They don't like to pay attention when I'm reading. It's hard for them to focus. So I figured it would probably be best to read when they're doing something else and their focus is action, so that their ears can be open to listening. So I do read a novel to them at lunchtime. So I think that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. You can follow me along on Instagram and Facebook, simply Our Humble Den, one word, Our Humble Den, for both places. And like I said, I'll be providing a video of our schedule, and I'll also be providing an update in the next 3 months of how we're doing with this curriculum. I might have videos of certain times when we're doing science or history on a specific day where I think the activity is pretty cool, and I'll leave the activity link. That's something that I find on Pinterest. I'll leave that for you as well if I think that it's pretty cool. But that's it. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like it and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in faith, family, homeschool, and printables. That's kind of what we do around here. We do family vlogs, we do homeschool updates, everything. So subscribe to our channel if you want to follow our family, and hopefully this video wasn't very long and I kept your attention towards the end. So if you made it to the end here, you might be my new best friend. Thanks guys, bye.